All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's 1:02, June 21st. This is our second regular BOCC meeting of the month. There is a lot on our agenda today, so I appreciate a little patience as we kind of navigate back and forth on a bunch of different topics and documents and do our best here. But let's see. I am going to, so first we have approval of our agenda today. And I had asked Kaylee Ham, our emergency manager, to join us to maybe give us a fire smoke update along with the COVID update. That's on the first two items of new business on the agenda. Hoping that the commissioners think that that's all right to add in there with a bit of informational items there. And I also, item number 10 that we had for the handbook update consideration. I think we have a lot of changes in there, and because we have such a packed agenda, wondering if maybe Commissioner Marcella and Fiedler would like to schedule another work session to go through some of those final changes before taking our time in a regular meeting.
Sure, I would propose that we move that to June 29th. It looks like we scheduled a work session with CSU Extension and 4-H, and so maybe we could start at 1 o'clock and do the handbook first, if that would be appropriate.
Okay. Yep, that sounds great. I was also wondering to kind of block out some time to chat with a new potential appointee in Coroner, but we can chat about that too and certainly get that posted appropriately. All right, so it sounds like we'll remove item 10 and just expect a few words from Kaylee on a fire update along with our COVID update, which maybe we can start making a regular thing as well. Any other changes to the agenda?
None for me. None for me. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, great. I will copy and paste a few of these then into the chat for us. Recording in progress. And let's see, we'll move into community informational items while I'm just getting the rest of this posted here. Commissioner Marcella, do you have anything for us today?
No, I don't think so today. Thank you very much.
All right, Commissioner Fiedler.
Nothing for me. We have a packed agenda, so let's just get rolling on regular business.
All right. All right. And one more paste here for me. All right. What is that? Okay, one more, folks. We'll be ready to roll. There we go. Okay. Sorry, quick informational item, Steve Boyle Fire and Rescue and Emergency Management. We are looking to continue conversations with HOAs and subdivisions on fire safety and other safety items. So hopefully we can reach out and schedule, get those conversations scheduled and going with our neighborhoods in Lake County. Any commissioner clarifications? I don't have any.
None for me, thank you.
For me.
Okay. Okay. Great. Do we have, and now it's our time for public comments on items not on the agenda. If you would raise your hand or throw in the chat if that's easier. Are there any members of the public here who would like to make a comment? I'm not seeing anything at the moment. Okay, hearing none. We will, oh, hold on a second. Got somebody. All right, we have a public comment portion of our meeting. Are there any members of the public who would like to make comments on items not on the agenda? Raise your hand or unmute. Okay. All right, hearing none and seeing no indication, we will.
Sorry, Sarah, I've got a public comment, but I'm
Okay.
just catching in, and so I'm not sure if I'm in the right spot or not. I've got a
Yes,
public.
we are. All right, would you, Anita, would you give us your name and address? And you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name's Anita Harvey. I'm at 1868 Autumn Drive, Leadville, Colorado. And my public comment is on the Twin Lakes requesting money for a study on their septic system. There are, I don't know the exact number, but I know in my neighborhood alone, we've got over 65 people that are in the same situation. We're tying into the sanitation district and funding that ourselves. I know Silver Hills, when they had to tie in, they funded that themselves. When they had their own system, they funded that themselves. So I don't feel that it's up to the county to fund that. When you buy a property, you know what you're buying. And just because you're up to code or not up to code, it's not up to the county to do that. It's up to the property owner to do that. So there you go. That's my comment.
Thanks, Anita.
Thank you.
And so, you know, Anita, next Tuesday, we'll probably have a conversation with CSU. I think you were gonna maybe
Yeah.
make a comment on that today or had a question for us on that.
No, I just talked to Jeff
we're
before the
getting-
meeting started, so I'm squared away on that.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Anita. Any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay. I don't see any more. All right. And with that, we'll go into our 2 items posted for public hearing, and these are liquor license renewals and a special event liquor license. So the number 1, we have a liquor license renewal for Taqueria La Mina LLC, doing business as Tacos La Mina. Patty, the clerk, is on here. Yes, I see her. Patty, you have all proper application documentation submitted. Any concerns?
No, I have no concerns. Everything is in proper order.
Perfect. I have no further questions on the renewal request. Happy to entertain a motion to approve the liquor license renewal for Taqueria La Mina LLC, doing business as Tacos La Mina.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
None for me. That sounds in order.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Number 2. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I should have asked for public comment on the liquor license. I failed to do that. Do we have any public comment on the application for Taqueria La Mina? Okay, I don't see any hands up. Second application, special event liquor licenses requested by the Sports Hall of Fame, the Stage Race, and the Silver Rush Run and Bike. So we have, actually, these are 3, or those should be separated into separate applications, correct, Patty?
There's 2 applications, one for the stage race and one for the Silver Rush. but they're both proposed by the Leadville Lake County Sports Hall of Fame.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification. I don't have any questions for you. Again, everything in order and all documentation has been submitted to you.
That's correct.
Great. I'll open it up for any public comments on the application for the special events liquor licenses. I do not believe I'm seeing anyone interested in commenting. Okay, commissioners, do you have any other questions for Patty? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
No questions for me?
None for me either. I will make a motion that we approve the special event liquor licenses for the Leadville Sports Hall of Fame stage race and Silver Rush run and bike race.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. I see head shake. All those in favor, aye.
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 All right. We'll close the public hearing for the liquor licenses and go into new business. So our first two items are a COVID update and a fire update. Is Colleen here? Commissioner Marcella, is she gonna join us?
No,
Okay.
Colleen is out today. So
Okay.
if Kaylee has any additional information that she can share on COVID, she's welcome to do so, but Colleen is not here to give us an update today.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us, Kaylee.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. Not many big COVID updates. We continue to see a steady increase in the vaccination rates, which is great. We're still trying to get to that goal of 75% of our eligible population by the 4th of July. So any vaccines can be found at St. Vincent Health and also Safeway. And after this, I'll put in some links there. Public Health has also worked with some community partners to have the mobile clinic up here through CDPHE. Unfortunately, I don't have a flyer to share, but I'm interested to hear on how that turned out and if they got some folks at that mobile clinic. But it was down in Chaffee for FibArc, so it got to come back up our way, which is really exciting. And that's it for COVID.
Great. Do you have any information to share with us? As I'm sure we're all getting a lot of questions about the haze and the smoke coming into the valley.
Yeah, so I'll try and be quick because I know you guys have a long one. A couple of things. First is that our fire danger in our region and in Lake County is considered high. You know, within the next week, our recent fire data from our FMO for the Forest Service said it's likely to go to very high. So definitely easy conditions for fire start in Lake. We do not have any fire restrictions locally. And just in case people aren't aware, Sheriff Reyes is responsible to implement fire restrictions on county property and land. And then, you know, the majority of our land in Lake County is federal land through BLM and the Forest Service. So they have not implemented any restrictions, but they're certainly looking at it. And I think everyone's, you know, goal is to certainly have some restrictions by the 4th of July. But on that note, all this haze is due to fires in surrounding areas. The biggest one, which I'll put a lot of links in the chat box, and I apologize, but I'd recommend if you're interested in fire information that you guys all save those. But our fire and smoke map shows that a lot of the smoke and kind of ash that we're seeing today is from the Sylvan fire over in Eagle County. One of the confusing pieces is that Pitkin County on the Hagerman side has closed that and issued a pre-evacuation notice. That is not on the Lake County side. And that fire has a ways to travel, but it could certainly, as we all know, with recent years, that it could pick up quickly. So if you hear of anyone mentioning Hagerman, that's not on our side. We're not concerned at this time. Mabel, I believe you said it still has quite a bit of snow up there. So we should be good unless we hear otherwise from Pitkin County Sheriff's Office. But there's some other fires in the state, specifically Rio Blanco and Moffat County have some decent fires, and the one closest to us is about 400 acres now. And on that note, also, we have, if you're not familiar, Purple Air is, the air quality monitor, and that's at the courthouse. So I'll also put a link into the chat so you guys can reference what that air quality score is. All morning it's been hovering around 130, so it's not ideal, certainly for members who are a little bit more sensitive and have some underlying, respiratory concerns. But hopefully it gets out of the area soon. And then if you have any specific questions on the air quality, CDPHE is the one who pushes out those advisories, but also you can work with Lake County Public Health Agency, who in environmental health is really the one who monitors that. And pending any questions, that's the biggest thing. There's no concerns here right now. It's the biggest thing.
All right. And you're pushing info out on Facebook. That's kind of the go-to for folks. It looks like Paul Clarkson. Paul, do you have a question for Kaylee on a fire update? You are muted, Paul. Go ahead.
I have no idea why that hand is there.
Okay. I will lower your hand then. Great. All right. Any questions for Kaylee? Commissioners?
No, I don't think so. Kaylee, I think really my only question would be if someone doesn't have a social media account, what's our next tactic for communicating that to people that may not be social media regulars?
Yeah, I'll put a lot of links in the chat, but we have our LakeCountyOEM.org website, so that will have a link to our Facebook. You can also find fire restriction information there. And then should we have an incident in the county, we will send everyone to that page and have some incident updates. And then another link that I'll put in is Eagle County's website, where they're keeping live information specifically about evacuations and shelters. So that's a lot of what ours would look like if we were to have an incident. And thanks for asking that, Commissioner Marcella. We also have the ability to alert the community through emergency alerts, whether that's Everbridge, which probably a lot of people on this call have signed up for, but we also have the ability to alert all cell phones in Lake County who accept emergency alerts. So similar to weather alerts for flash flood or severe winter storms, that's what our message would come through looking like, and should we have to evacuate or anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. All right. All right. We'll go into see item number 2 up here. There's 2 item 2s, but the first was the update. So building and land use special event permitting consideration for the Trans Rockies and Courage Classic. Ann Schneider, I don't think I have any specific questions for you, but do you want to give us a brief overview?
Sure. I'll just keep it brief. These are annual events that we've all seen before. And only one of them that is on the agenda requires the board's approval. The other one I've just added on for some situational awareness. And so Courage Classic is proposed to host their event through Lake County July 17th. This is for the benefit of Children's Hospital. It is a tour and not a race. They will come in on Highway 91 and leave immediately out of Lake County on Highway 24. And with aid stations across from Climax and on Tennessee Pass. So I just emailed shortly before the meeting the actual permit that would need to be signed and recorded. And the only conditions would be that they are consistent with their application and everything that they have within the materials that they have submitted. And then giving us an up-to-date insurance liability certificate prior to the event, which we're working on with Katie. So pretty clean. And so that would be Courage Classic, July 17th, 2021. The other one, I'm just going to kind of go through both, and then if you have any questions, is the Trans Rockies run. It is a relay run. It is happening August 2nd through 3rd. They are in Lake County overnight, and they camp on Leiter Field. They have reduced their numbers this year to 350 athletes for the relay and 100 staff, up to 100 in staff and volunteers, may not be that many. And they did that in wanting to be sensitive to kind of the reintroduction of events back into communities. So they were thoughtful, I think, in their numbers this year. We do have a list of requirements. One is, again, that they're consistent with all the materials within their application. The other are just parking requirements, that they keep right-of-ways free of vehicles in case of emergency, and that their food vendor permits and licenses will be fully obtained and paid for prior to the event, that they are consistent with the fire requirements. Steve Boyle brought back some requirements about operations within tent structures. And so he'll do an inspection on site to make sure everything is consistent with fire code prior to arrival. And then that they are additionally compliant with public health. And not limited to, but including sanitary requirements as far as porta potties. So that one does hit under the threshold for board approval, but just wanted to kind of give you an update and keep everyone abreast of what is happening with special events this season. So just open it up for any questions that the board might have.
Any questions for Anne?
No, I don't believe that I have anything specific to ask. They seem very straightforward.
Yeah, same here. I appreciate the one event sort of reducing numbers to thin out, and then the mitigation plan from the Courage Classic was thorough. And, again, it's mostly outdoors, especially, the start and finish aren't here. So I think, yeah, no further questions, but thanks to the event organizers for trying to work things through there.
And I guess I do have one quick question. Is the Trans Rockies run the event that's requiring participants to be vaccinated to participate?
Actually, I'm not sure. They very well may be. I can look that up pretty quickly here, but I'm not sure. I know that a couple of the events have, and let me look and see if that's within their, we asked them to kind of put that in their cover sheet. And so I'm scanning that very quickly. See, I'm looking through the emergency medical. I'm not seeing, Kayla, that they have. I could be wrong though, and I can certainly follow up after the meeting with you, just to, for FYI purposes, to share that piece of information. But I'm not, they certainly have checking them in and making sure that there are no signs of illness and everyone is in good medical clearance. But I don't see a requirement for vaccination, but it may be within the materials, and I can certainly confirm that, because I think that's a really nice aspect.
Okay, thank you, Anne. I appreciate it.
Sure.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the Trans Rockies Run event with the list of requirements given by Anne.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
None for me?
All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Thanks for bringing that to us, Anne.
And I also need the Courage Classic.
Okay, sorry about
I
that.
will make a motion that we approve the special event permit for the Courage Classic.
Second?
Okay, any further discussion on the Courage Classic? Also to include the events list of requirements?
No, thank you.
I don't, okay.
No, just so I know, I got ahead of myself there a little bit on, but my previous comments were for both events.
Great. All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approval of the Courage Classic event? Aye.
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 All right. Very good. And on to number 3, we have our goal funding amendment. We have our goal ED here with us. Hello.
Hi,
Oh,
everyone.
excuse me.
Hi,
Take it
Vanessa.
away.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Saldivar. I'm the ED of Get Outdoors Leadville, and I have some funding updates and requests to make of the board. So the GOCO board has formally awarded our fiscal year 22 award per our multi-year funding commitment. So as a reminder, this was back in March that the amendment was approved by the BOCC for this multi-year grant. And so they've asked us to, on a yearly basis, have another signed contract addendum to release that year's allotment of funds. So they are requesting that we do that for fiscal year 2022. The funds would be available for disbursement after July 1st. So our grant officer is actually requesting that we get the language approved in the addendum that I shared by email, and then he's requesting that we have the BOCC sign electronically. So we can start with reviewing and having it approved, but then would love to know just preferred process for getting this kind of addendum signed, because in the past we were sending to Patty and then having actual signatures. I'm happy to continue to do that, but we may also need to do an e-signature.
I think if you want to send it to me, Vanessa, for an e-signature, that would be fine, because it still falls under public health at this point. And since I oversee public health, if you want to send that to me to streamline that a little bit, that would work, unless Sarah and Jeff have an objection to that.
I know sometimes it's the chair, so however it is in the document, I have the capability. I have an electronic signature, or if you're sending an e-doc or DocuSign, then that's easy enough for any of us to do.
Okay, I can clarify with our grant officer if he can take both signatures, and I can send it to both. Otherwise, I'll just send to Kayla, if that sounds okay.
Yep. Vanessa, anything specific you want to go over in the document? Otherwise, I don't think I have any questions. Just kind of revisiting and a renewal of sorts for the goal operational plan.
I don't. I don't have any. It's like I said, it's a continuation of the former contract resolution first, and then the addendum. What was first? The resolution, and then the agreement, and now this is the addendum. So it's all the same. Nothing has changed. So unless there's questions about the specific language.
I don't think so. Kayla, Commissioner Marcella, do you have the title pulled up? I don't.
Hold on just 1 second here. Grab it here. This is just an addendum to the grant agreement for Get Outdoors Leadville for contract number 17881. That's all that it says on the addendum.
Do you want to make a motion for us?
Yeah.
Please.
Sure. Let me pull that up just 1 second here. All right, so I will make a motion that we approve the addendum to the grant agreement for Get Outdoors Leadville, contract number 17881.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Nothing
Okay.
for me.
Okay, great. Nothing for me either. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Anything else for us today?
That's it.
We'll hear from you on that electronic signature.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And I have to say, I'm getting things are being up just a little bit for me on here. So if I pause or am kicked off, I'll be back. All right, item number 4 on our new business agenda, we have IME Pavement Presentation. Public Works has been working diligently with IME, developing a pavement assessment and plan for the county. And it looks like we have Jeff Myers here. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks, Michael, for being here and bringing Jeff. Michael, do you want to give us a little intro or summary?
Sure, I can. Actually, it's IMS, Infrastructure Management Services. They, over the past year, have done a survey of all of our asphalt roads and graded them. We also have pictures of all of them and signs and stuff like that on there, which is really cool. They've mapped it out with Bryce. And pretty much Jeff is going to go over the findings. They've gone over it a couple times with me. It's just probably better for him to explain than me trying to remember everything. So I will let him take over.
No worries. Is it okay if I share my screen real quick?
You bet, you should be able to.
Okay. Sometimes people freak out when I share my screen, so I always check first.
No problem.
All right. I'm hoping you can see a PowerPoint.
We
It
can.
says Lake County at the top. Okay, good deal.
Got it.
All right. Well, my name is Jeff Myers. I've been out there a couple of times, actually. I enjoy these much better when I'm out there. It's gorgeous out there. But COVID. So we'll have to make do. But I'm going to kind of run through what we found in Lake County. I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of where you are, kind of show you what we did, and then show you a little bit about what we suggest and how we got from point A to point B. And I'm going to try to be fairly brief, but I'm a pretty informal guy and I cannot see you once I start. So if you have a question or anything, don't hesitate just to shout it out. And by all means, I'll stop and answer your question. But just to give you a quick overview of what we're looking at and scale it, we rated everything on a scale of 0 to 100, which is, if you're interested, it's the ASTM D6433 standards. There aren't really no hundreds unless it's a brand new road, and there are really no zeros unless they're really non-drivable. They all fall in points between. As a rule of thumb, we look at anything below a 40 as being potentially troublesome. And probably the next step is to replace the road, reconstruction. There's not a whole lot of repair left. We look at anything over a 70, be really, for all intents and purposes, maintenance free for a period of time. And just to give you a sneak peek of the results in Lake County, you had an overall pavement condition index of 61. That falls just ahead of our norm. Nationwide, we generally see an average in the low 60 range, 60 to 63. You have a backlog which are those roads below a 40, right at 10%, which is fairly normal, on the high side of normal. If it gets much over 12%, it kind of turns into an issue. So far we're looking pretty good, and I'll break down those numbers further here in a minute. But the process we used, and I covered this slide, I always cover this slide just to make sure that you know what we're trying to achieve. We know that in the first 40% of a pavement or a road's life, there really doesn't have to be a whole lot of maintenance done. It's pretty solid. It'll only drop about 15% in quality. Very easy to maintain, but the deterioration from that point on is fairly rapid. And you can see that curve start to run downhill. And over the next 15% of the road's life, it'll actually drop about 40% in quality. So it's kind of a strange curve. And what we like to get to with pavement management is to be constantly treating the surfaces with inexpensive treatment instead of expensive treatment. We call it, you've probably heard the term, kicking the can out to the right. We let the curve deteriorate to a certain point, and kick it out to the right with the treatment. Never really let it get down into that expensive category of rehabilitation. So that's what we're trying to get to over the term of a pavement management program. And we do that big picture by first understanding the condition of the roadways. And then we try, and Mike was real good with us about this, we try to get inside Lake County, figure out how you guys do business out there, what it's costing you to do rehabilitations, what kind of rehabilitations you like to do, what kind of a budget you're applying, what's important to the county, way of prioritize, do you prioritize certain types of roads? Really everything that makes Lake County unique from a pavement standpoint. And then we put all that together to try to make the information we're giving you consumable and meaningful. It's a lot of data that we're delivering, and it's of little or no value if it's not consumable. So you guys came to us at a good time because we had recently upgraded our fleet. It's just kind of a picture of what drove the county. This is an LCMS 2 collection vehicle. State of the art. This changes about every 14 minutes, but as of right now, it's the latest and greatest technology for collecting pavement data. And just to let you understand kind of the treatments that you're looking at, you can see the curve as it slopes to the right. You start with just crack and joint sealing, and you end up at the bottom of that curve with full reconstruction, meaning you rip out whatever's there and start new. And this is a very difficult map to follow in a presentation, but rest assured we've delivered full-length PDFs that can be expanded ceiling to floor if you would like visual representations. But you can kind of see the vaguely what's good, bad, and ugly and where it sits. And you can see the good areas tend to be the more centralized areas. And as a rule of thumb, the further out you go, the poorer in quality the pavement gets, which is probably by design and a very good thing. Pictorially, I'll show you some of your roads, and so you can kind of relate it to the condition. This is Weston Pass. This is a PCI of 72. And you can see this is a very solid road. You're starting to see a little bit of cracking, but overall it's level, has good drainage, no rutting, there's no real patching, very solid road. This is County Road 2. This is still a very solid road. We rated it a PCI of 65. You can start to see some of the longitudinal cracking. Still in good shape, but you can see problems starting to develop. So that's a road that's kind of still a solid road, starting to drift down the scale a little bit. This is County Road 99. This is a very poor road, PCI of 22. The differences you can see, and it's very hard to tell from this picture, but you can see this spider web type of cracking. We call that alligator cracking. And 9 times out of 10, that's an indication that what's underneath the pavement is starting to shift and shake on us a little bit. It's going to be really hard to stabilize that without pulling it up. So any preventative treatments or overlays that you would put over the top of that surface are going to last a short period of time, but you're going to see that cracking start to come back up. So this one's probably drifting down into expensive rehab category. I'm going to spend a minute on this representation because for me, when I look at the condition of a network, this is probably the most digestible representation of where you are at this moment in time. And I'll tell you what we see that kind of jumps out from the graph. You can see we've kind of divided this into even more consumable segments and put ratings on them that are words: good, fair, poor, very good. And then we summed up the entire network. So when you first look at the Lake County network, you can see the condition scores are solid, 61. The backlog scores are pretty solid, about 10%. But what looks a little troubling when you look at this graph, we like to see this curve kind of in a bell-shaped curve, but sloped to the right. And the reason for that, and I've seen this graph before, this shape, what we're looking at when we see these bars as the heaviest part of the network, looking at a street crew that has probably been around the block a time or 12. They know every trick in the book. They may make excellent use of the funds that are provided, and they're kind of shoving the problems to the right as well as they can with the resources they have. And it's working, but it won't work for a long time. You can see these bars right here, as these start shifting to the left, degrading, if these aren't attended to fairly quickly, they drift into the rehabilitation category. And all of a sudden you have a lot of roads that need to be ripped out and replaced. When you get much over 12% in that very poor and poor category, your budget is pretty well going to determine itself, because you're going to be spending it on very few roads and very expensive treatments. We like to see the money spent more over on this side of the curve. Just to give you a comparison, a treatment in this range, and Mike, you can step in if I'm butchering your cost because I'm not looking at it directly, but typically a reconstruction, you're probably looking at a $60 per square yard range. These treatments, you're probably typically looking in about a $25 per square yard range. When you get to the right, those treatments are looking at about an $8 per square yard range. So as these start to drift on you, if you let them drift too far, you're looking at roughly 40, 50, 55% of your network in that most expensive category. And that becomes a problem that typically will take a bond to fix instead of a budget increase because of the expense. So it's something to be acutely aware of. It was a good time to do a study because right now things look pretty good. I think without probably a little bit of investment, and we'll get into that in a second, it's probably going to degrade somewhat rapidly. We'll look at how the budget intersects as well. So we made some assumptions before we started into the analysis. Some of them are quite obvious. We know that the funding is not zero, and we also know that it's not unlimited. It's obviously a point between those two. We valued the network by looking at the heavily traveled roads first, applying somewhat of a shading, if you will, or priority factor to them. We wanted to identify first an annual budget that it would take to maintain your current condition, stay right where you are, metric-wise. We wanted to take a look at what your current funding levels would carry out to condition-wise over the next 5 years. And then I always stress that the analysis that we're performing is priority-based, cost-optimized. So we aren't necessarily looking at attacking the worst roads first. we're looking at attacking the drop-offs in cost. So a road that can be spent $20 a square yard on today, that will cost $50 tomorrow, that's a high priority. It may not be the worst road, but it's the one that's going to cost you the most not to rehab in a given year. So we're looking at catching the roads before they drop into much more expensive treatment categories because funds are limited. And I won't bore you with all of this. This is kind of where we start to get into the mind of Lake County and what we're looking for. We're looking for localized cost. We know that it's going to cost a Mike a completely different dollar amount per square yard to do an overlay than it will in Lubbock, Texas, or Yankton, South Dakota. So we want localized specific cost. We want to know if the budget has to be spent in a certain way, have to be spread out across 4 different districts. Does the county have any identifiable priorities? Roads around schools need to be prioritized. Anything that we need to know to make the analysis a little more granular. All right, and as we intersected your budget, you'll see we begin by running what we call a fix-all budget. So if the county fixed every road in the network to the recommended treatment in year 1, and didn't do anything else over the next 5 years, what would the size of that check be? And if you can you guys see this font? Easy enough?
Barely.
Barely. It's kind of the problem I'm having. The
It
fix-all
says
budget.
24.4 million.
That is correct. If you wanted to write a check and fix everything in the county tomorrow, that's the price tag. Pretty close to what it would cost to get everything up to the recommended treatment. And then we ran a lot of different budget points. The black line at the bottom, we also wanted to know, okay, what would happen if you didn't spend anything over the next 5 years? What would the effect on condition be? And you can see that black line drift down fairly severely. And what we're looking at right now is strictly pavement condition index. We're not looking at backlog. And you can tell this, it looks busy, but it's not rocket science. You can see the years go out to the right. And you can see the scores, pavement condition index go up with the budget. And then we ran different lines. This is solid green line is your current budget. It's about $500,000 a year. You can see that's probably going to start degrading on you because of the 3rd and 4th bars in that chart. Overlays are your second most expensive category of rehabilitation. They will eat up a lot of budget, and they're going to start to degrade your network a little more. Conversely, if you wanted a steady state, if you wanted to maintain your current PCI without backlog included, the line doesn't look nearly as severe. So we recommended a budget that would increase your PCI to a 64, but more importantly, it would keep your backlog at a controllable level. Those are your roads below 40 that will probably require reconstruction. And that budget comes in significantly higher than where you are right now, about 1.7 million a year. And I'll show you the same information in a different look. Again, here's your trend line. And again, as the budget goes up on the x-axis, condition goes up on the y-axis. So you can see the current budget right here, $500,000. It's going to give you a significant drop in PCI. You can see what it would take to keep the backlog controlled at 10% would be a pretty significant budget amount. Probably your most expensive spending would be to maintain your current backlog. So we're running different scenarios, just trying to figure out what would be the optimal blend to not come in at an ungodly amount over your budget, but at the same time, the roads will have to be somewhat maintained. Any questions so far? All right.
I have a question. This is Commissioner Fiedler. I don't know, is it possible so if I'm understanding these scenarios, this is super helpful, by the way, thank you for explaining it and going through this in detail. Is it possible to run an analysis, or is there like a ballpark estimate of if you let some of our currently paved roads revert to being unpaved and just being, sort of graded and maintained road base, what that saves, if anything? Like, I mean, I'm just sort of curious, when if a low priority, infrequently used road, relative to other higher priority roads is in really very poor condition, is it, from a budget perspective, is it worth thinking about letting them revert to unpaved? And does that have a significant cost savings over time?
It actually does. And we have the data kind of right now dropped into a spreadsheet. It's generating all of these scenarios. It's a big spreadsheet. It's generating all of these scenarios. The way that we do that is just take a list of those roads, eliminate them from the analysis budget. You would be applying the same budget to your road. So it would definitely make an impact. And it would also impact your most expensive fixes. So yeah, it could significantly impact your budget intersection.
And I'm curious if you or Mike, given the climate we're in, I mean, is maintaining unpaved roads significantly harder and more expensive up here than sort of kind of generic average costs might indicate? I'm just, I would hate to think about going down that route, and then just have really expensive maintenance costs because the weather hammers unpaved roads here.
Mike would probably be your authority on that. If you took it down to native or gravel, Mike, do you have a square yard cost on what you're spending on maintaining gravel?
No, I don't, not at this time, but I do know that would cause more road grading, more actual maintenance on the roads than we would do now, including mag chloride or whatever we would do to keep the dust down on those roads, because everybody will complain very readily and quickly.
And a lot of this process is education, citizen education, because it's kind of we advise our clients to start on that out of the gate, because the approach that we're taking, and it's not unique. The hard fact of the industry is at the city, the county, the state, and the federal level, the road network has been underfunded for 20 years. In some cases, severely underfunded. So this is a systemic problem. And what we find as it gets worse, there are, a lot of public works departments are basically responding to citizen complaints, which kind of exacerbates the problem because it kind of withholds cost optimal solution. But it's hard not to do it that way if you can't approach the network as a network. But when you start a cost optimal program, inevitably, almost inevitably, within the first 3 months, you'll be rehabbing a street with a thin treatment that has a PCI of 62, and there will be a street that's a 14 running parallel to it 2 blocks over, and you'll get a complaint saying, "Hey, you guys lost your mind? Why are you on this street when you can clearly see that this street is far worse?" And it's kind of a good opportunity to kind of wade into this, saying, well, the reason why is we don't have unlimited funding. So we're trying to stretch our budget as far as we possibly can. We're trying to optimize the budget. And that's, that's true.
Yep. I know Michael plans to work to present, some sort of that overall plan or long-term plan to the board using this information. And it sounds like we need to take a couple next steps on prioritizing some routes and maybe looking at those exact roadways that with that map. That was a little hard to see virtually, but and kind of come up with the next 3, 4, 5-year plan.
We can run scenarios with you. We don't really go away, so to speak. So if you need help running scenarios, I mean, we can do this till the cows come home. What you're looking at here is just a graphical representation of what it looks like at the current budget over the next 5 years. So the red is your current condition, the blue is your condition in 5 years. And you can kind of see that what we're talking about. These bars are just kind of shifting over into the left. Everything's kind of shifting. So we have some good presentation material. Our recommendation is to do the best you can, basically. It's going to depend on the funding levels, but the higher percentage of roads in the marginal fair category is the biggest attention item, and that will probably require additional funding. We always recommend reviewing your strategies because they change. Rehab treatments come out all the time, creative rehab treatments. And you're probably going to want to reassess every so often, probably 5 years, just to make sure that line holds and your money is being spent and having the effect that we think it will. And that's about all I have. Any questions?
This is, I have one quick question. Sorry about that. Your overview didn't include anything within the city limits. Is that correct? It's only county roads?
County maintained roads. If I remember right, I think there are, Mike, there's 1 or 2 that kind of run on the extreme of the city, correct?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, it's kind of blended, not really the downtown area, of course, but there are some that are fairly shared geographically. We had talked about doing something joint with the city, but I think they kind of deferred that to a different fiscal year.
Michael, any notes for us?
No, I mean, I've got a program that we can use to run some options with now. I'm still kind of learning how to use it, but I am playing with it. So, wherever we want to move from here, obviously, the quote is keep our good roads good and then repair our bad roads. So.
Yeah, I'd definitely be curious to see you run that breakdown and see what those conversations are for budget season.
Yep.
And we can help you with that too.
All right, cool.
We still owe you some training on the spreadsheet itself. So I'm kind of waiting until you settle in and have some questions so we can be more dialed in on it.
All right.
But like I say, we don't really go away. If you have a question, just give me a ring. We'll set up a call and run through it.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
Can I ask another question? So just looking over my notes, so there's like roughly, we have that 10% backlog in the very poor and poor condition. Can you educate me? So is everything in the backlog sort of at the point where you really need to get down into the, or I'm probably using the wrong words, but like the sub base? I mean, you need to do more than just patch it or re-asphalt. You're talking about some like significant repairs to the actual underlying road base itself? I mean, almost rebuilding, or is it just the very poor, you know, the worst of the worst?
Typically, they'll have to be reconstructed. Some of the ones that are between low 30s and 40, if there are no signs of alligator cracking or anything that would indicate a weaker base, sometimes you can come in and put heavy overlays on that, and it's worth the risk. But typically, a majority of those roads, yes, are going to be full reconstructions. Definitely anything below a 30, no question.
Okay.
I mean, you can still overlay them and they'll still hold for a few years, but
Yeah, but
what you're spending is going to cost a lot of money for the length out of the rehabilitation.
gotcha. Thanks.
Basically, we have 2 roads that I know for sure are like that, and they get a lot of traffic every day. That's County Road 99 and County Road 10. And they're both really in bad shape.
Yeah, and you had identified 99 a couple of years back, Michael, and then the culvert started failing, and we kind of pushed that replacement in front of a repavement,
Right.
right?
Right.
That
The culvert
makes more
needs to be done.
sense.
Yeah, we did have a plan to roto-mill County Road 99 and start over again, and they just got put off.
And Michael, you guys always do, as Jeff kind of mentioned, the different types of treatments. Is that part of the formula that you can help with as well,
Yes.
Jeff?
We
Excellent.
can. Now you guys are in a unique spot. You know, what you have going for you is it's gorgeous up there. What you don't have going for you is it's not a heavily populated area, so your rehab toolkit is probably somewhat limited. You know, Mike probably knows every contractor that will come up there fairly well, and probably knows their children's names. You know, because it's, you know, you're a long way to come. You know, if you're in Denver, there's really any rehab that exists on the planet is open to you, and you can select from the menu, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Michael, let's get these conversations prepped for budget time. Hey.
We will.
All right. Jeff, we really appreciate you joining us and all the work you've put into the assessment. I know integrating that with some of the PubWorks and the tablets and the tools that Michael has worked to integrate into the day-to-day operations of Public Works is going to be really beneficial and help with that conversation internally, let alone, as you said, being able to communicate better as to priorities setting to the public. So thank you so much.
No one, you guys have been a pleasure to work with. Live in a gorgeous area. If I bring my engineer, I never brought my engineer up there because I was afraid he wouldn't come back. So,
well, thanks for your time today, Jeff. We will definitely, I mean, I know you and Michael are continue working together, but I'm sure we will be talking to you again soon as well as a board.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Thanks, Michael. All right. And let's see, I see Jeremiah on here and Sarah Weathered, I believe the last name. Number 5 on our agenda is the Central Mountain Regional EMS and Trauma Advisory Council. We're also going to get a little presentation and summary of this and a joint IGA with partnering counties, that Lake County, that we will consider. Welcome, Sarah. Thanks for joining us, Sarah and Jeremiah.
Great, thank you, commissioners, for having me. If it's okay, I'll share my screen as well. I'll be brief.
You bet.
Okay, tell me if you can see my screen, please.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm here today to request a signature on an updated IGA between the 6 counties that we work with, but also wanted to take the opportunity just to briefly tell you a little bit about what we do. So as you mentioned, I am the executive director for the Central Mountains RETAC, which is Regional EMS and Trauma Advisory Council. Hopefully that'll advance. Okay. So we are authorized by state and funded by state statute to provide a coordinated approach to EMS and trauma care. We're funded by CDPHE, their EMTS branch, and the reason I have this license plate there is because $2 out of every motorized vehicle plate goes towards funding this branch, as well as a grant program, including the RETACs. We work with all the ambulance services and trauma centers in the region. Jeremiah, who's on the call today, is on our board. We also work with other stakeholders such as public health, emergency managers, things like that. We provide support, education, and coordination and technical assistance. We're not necessarily having authority over our constituents, but we do provide a lot of support. And we are board governed, and the Board of County Commissioners all identify who our board members are. As I mentioned, Jeremiah is on our board. So there's 11 RETACs in the state of Colorado. You can see that we're right there in the middle. Our counties include Eagle, Summit, Pitkin, Lake, Chaffee, and Park. So kind of the ski areas and the high mountain areas is who we work with. We're pretty diverse financially and geographically, as you can see. If you're interested in learning a little more, our website's right there. I won't read you our mission, but you can see that there. And then what we do, what every RETAC does is a little bit different, and what we do is guided by a biennial plan that we write every couple of years. We just had ours approved in May. And our main focus at this time is communication, regional medical direction, which provides support to the medical directors for the EMS agencies. We recently appointed one regional medical director, which I think is going to really help provide support, especially in smaller areas like Lake County. Injury prevention, education, and behavioral health, which is a difficult topic to tackle, but we're working on it. So I mentioned regional medical direction. We provide a couple education opportunities for free for anyone in our region. We also participate in the CARES registry, which is Cardiac Arrest Registry to Enhance Survival. So we track, and our region was the first to fully participate in this, thanks to all of our board members. We track any cardiac arrest that's non-traumatic and follow those patients all the way through the hospital and look at their outcomes, and compared to state and national data, we actually do pretty well. So that's exciting now that we have 3 full years worth of data to look at there. I would say one of the strongest things that we do in our area, or region, excuse me, is injury prevention. We do skier safety, stop the bleed, Think First, which is a brain and spinal cord injury prevention program, and fall prevention, as well as a teen traffic safety challenge. And I will say we submitted a grant to the state, which we should know about in about 2 weeks or 10 days or so. And we will ideally be coming up to Lake County specifically to help initiate some Stop the Bleed programs. And I've already had some conversations with folks at the hospital. We're pretty excited about that. So wish us luck there. Wanted to share a little bit of data with you. So as I mentioned, we do seatbelt counts. This is at the high school. People stand outside the high schools with a pen and paper. Are they wearing a seatbelt or are they not? So it's an observational, sort of informal study. We were not able to complete this in 2020 for obvious reasons, but as you can see, over the course of 2011 through 2019, seatbelt use at high schools has improved every year since we started, which is pretty exciting. Lake County, I apologize, I don't have 2019 on here, but I did look it up. Lake County falls a little bit behind in that data, but has improved somewhat. In 2019, fall numbers were 75%. So definitely improving, but definitely still some room to go. Just wanted to mention the county's role, obviously, as I'm here today to request IGA approval. And then also the Board of County Commissioners does define our board membership through resolution. I am unable to find the last resolution that defines that, but I do know that the ambulance director is on our board, Jeremiah, and he's been great to work with. So if anyone has that resolution, I would love a copy of it. It'd be very helpful. And then that's it in terms of what we do. So I'm happy to take any questions about that. And then I can present just a brief update on what the IGA changes are.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm curious, the Stop the Bleed program, is that through the schools also?
It would be, yes.
Or is that, okay.
And we
And
would
is that a certain age group, or is that across the schools?
Probably starting with the older age groups. We would start by training the trainers, which would include EMS, fire agencies, hospital employees, things like that. And then the goal would be to reach out to the schools. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. That's great. Any other questions for Sarah before she goes into the IGA specifics? Jeremiah, any comments?
I'm just here to support Sarah's message. Working with the CMRETAC board, being on the CMRETAC board has been phenomenal. There's several programs in Lake County that would not have been able to happen without them. And working with them is great. The injury prevention, the funding they give, the education that we help with is all just unmatched in the region. Keeps us all well interconnected through hospitals and EMS agencies, which is great. And actually CMRETAC tends to lead the pack in the RETACs. And we tend to be really progressive, get things going, and a lot of the other RETACs tend to follow our lead, which is really nice to be able to be a part of.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear.
Yeah, thanks. I think for Lake County and other smaller counties in particular, it's a really nice opportunity to connect. You know, for example, Jeremiah has called me several times, hey, I have this particular question or problem. Who can you connect me with? I want to become a trauma center. Where do I start? I've got this, I don't know, recruitment and retention issue. What's going on in the state? So we, again, we don't have authority over necessarily, but we do have a really good opportunity to provide support and resources, including a little bit of funding or support writing grants, things like that. So, and then if I may, I'll be really brief with this, but so what I'm requesting today is a signature on an updated IGA between our 6 counties. There's not a huge amount of change in this document. Really, it's to reflect current practice and fiscal year timelines. Much of the language is unchanged. It does allow for our bylaws to govern over the IGA, which is really helpful because obviously we need to obtain 6 counties worth of signatures to make any change. I've been working on this process for about a year, and you are the 5th of my 6 counties to sign, hopefully today. The council membership is unchanged, and we still encourage non-voting participation. All our meetings are open. The last time this was updated was in 2003, so it's been a while. So that is my request today, to receive signature on our updated IGA, please. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, and we had legal review that too. No concerns or comments back from that review. And I don't have anything specific for you, Sarah. It does sound like if we can't find that resolution, we might have to create one defining the board membership or acknowledging it. So we can work on that as well after today and follow up. Jeremiah, if you'd help us.
I should have mentioned that we do have 3 voting members per county, and as of now, Jeremiah is our only active Lake County participant, but we would love to see, you know, additional folks from trauma services, public health, the EMS world. So that would be very much appreciated.
That's great. Sarah, any interaction or funding that you might see from the latest opioid settlement coming down the pike at all? Is that going to inject anything in?
That's a good question that I don't have a good answer for. I apologize. I don't know if Jeremiah is more up to speed on that.
I've heard rumor of that coming down eventually, but no specifics on how or where that's going to go. And I know it's a thing. I know Lake County will see some of that, but I couldn't tell you specifically how or when or where.
Gotcha. Commissioners, any other questions for Sarah before considering the IGA? No?
No, none for me. Thank you.
None for me.
All right. Well, I'll let's see. Sorry, I don't have the IGA. The language. Apologize. Well, I'll entertain a motion for the CMRETAC IGA, including Eagle Summit, Pick and Chaffee Park and Lake counties.
So moved.
Approval of the IGA.
Yeah.
Second?
All right. Any further discussion?
No, thank you.
All right. Thanks for bringing this to us, and thanks for the persistence. Apologies that it took a little while there.
Gee, sorry, just one quick question. In terms of getting our act together in a resolution for the 3 voting members, how often are your meetings, or when is the next meeting? Deadlines always spur action.
Our RETAC board meetings?
Yeah, or like when would it be good for us to have selected the 3 voting members?
We meet bi-monthly, and actually a couple of things I should mention. Our next meeting is finally in person, and it's going to be in Leadville, Jeremiah. I don't know if we've figured out exactly where yet, but that will be July, I apologize.
28th.
Wednesday.
This should be the 28th.
At 9 a.m.
Yeah.
So it would be lovely to have, since we'll be there, to have a couple other board members in present, but then. And I also would like to mention, I'm coming, myself and our injury prevention specialist will be coming to Lake County next Monday to do the rounds, and would love to meet with any of you that are interested to talk about how we help support.
And that board meeting should be here at the hospital. I should have a space for that for us. So it should be at the hospital on the 28th.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could we potentially then meet, the 3 of us, perhaps with Jeremiah, to talk through potential candidates and try to get something in place in a resolution form prior to their meeting on July 28th?
Yeah, what prior communication has gone out across emergency services council groups and partners to solicit any interest, Jeremiah? And is there a certain representation defined?
Yeah,
or is that
where we haven't had a trauma program before, it hasn't really been a huge thing. It's just been me. Now that we're spinning up a trauma program for the hospital, I've been working on doing that so we can get a trauma designation. I'm going to have what's called a trauma nurse coordinator, and I believe that person should be on the CMRETAC board as well. And that's, I have a person in mind for that. We're trying to work with her to see if she's interested in all of that. So that person should be, as well as anybody else. I'm not exactly sure. We can certainly have that conversation.
Great.
If I may make a request, if you could name them by position, not name, that would be extremely helpful in case of any position changes. Thank you.
Okay.
But yeah,
right.
if someone wants to reach out, we can set that meeting at whatever you'd like.
Jeremiah, I'll try to get something on our schedule, maybe the 1st or 2nd week of July.
Sure, that sounds fine. Let me know. I'll be there.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
All right. Any discussion on the motion on the floor?
No, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, great. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, Sarah. Thanks for joining us, Jeremiah.
Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Rolling back up here. Sorry, my agenda. Okay, number 6, we have coroner appointment. This is exciting. All right, so the board, with the resignation of Shannon Kent as coroner effective August 1st or sooner, depending on the ability for the Board of Commissioners to make an appointment to the seat, which is our statutory authority. We have solicited letters of interest for the position. We narrowed those letters submitted and received, down to 3 eligible finalists. We had interviews last week and a meet and greet. We posted online. We had an in-person meet and greet at Freight for anyone available. And we do have just a few questions that we asked the candidates for a blocked period of time in that overall time frame for the meet and greet last Wednesday. That is posted online. And I believe we are ready for a nomination to appointment. Any comments or questions from commissioners as well? Both Commissioner Fiedler and Commissioner Marcella were able to make it Wednesday night and meet the candidates.
I just would like to say, express my gratitude to all of the candidates that took the opportunity to submit a letter of interest or a resume. And I just really want to say thank you to your commitment to be able to and willing to step up to the plate to help us and help our community get through this rough patch. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate all of that interest. And we had some really great candidates. So thank you.
Yeah, just to quickly add on, all 3 candidates in that final pool, really emphasize the need to sort of restore trust in that office and serve the community, and also attract a qualified bench of deputies. So, really appreciate that emphasis from all 3 of the candidates.
I'd like to make a nomination for appointment if my fellow commissioners think we're at that point. Great.
Absolutely.
I'd like to nominate Alexander Krieg for appointment to the elected office of coroner. Alexander mentioned a number of times throughout our interactions and conversations about his goal to, as Commissioner Fiedler said, develop a nice pool and support system and of deputies and operational standards in the office. And I am convinced that he has the dedication, commitment, and focus to be able to do that for the office. Do I have a second?
I will second the nomination of Alexander Krieg.
Great. Any further discussion?
No, I don't think so. I just, I think what really stood out to me through the town hall process with them was his commitment to succession planning and development of standard operating procedures for that office and department. So, yeah.
Great. And so also Alexander has submitted his background check as of this morning. So pending that coming into the county clerk, if she has not already received it. Statutorily, she is the one that receives that, and will let us know if there is anything causing Mr. Krieg to be ineligible. But pending that, are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All those in favor for the appointment of Alexander Krieg to the office coroner for Lake County? Aye.
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 Excellent. I will get in touch with Alexander after our meeting today and let him know that the decision has been made and formalized. And I'm sure he'll want to reach out for help and assistance from emergency management, Jeremiah, other partners to have schedule those meetings and start getting his feet wet, jumping right in. Excellent.
Yeah, and if I could just
Thank
add,
you so
I think Commissioner Mudge, you probably have some additions, but I just wanted to say, I mean, the Chaffey County Coroner and the State Association, I think in particular, are just super helpful in some of the gaps we've had and in helping through the hiring process. And you probably have some other people to add, but it's been really gratifying just to see that help from other places.
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning that, Commissioner Fiedler, and Dr. Lisa stepping in as a deputy in the office in the interim period as well. Randy Keller, Fremont County Fremont County Coroner, and Jeff Graff, the Chaffee County Coroner, who we still have an active MOU with. I think they are definitely willing and able to understand that interim period of transition time while we get some of the equipment and infrastructure of our office kind of set up again. But yes, huge thanks to all those folks. All right. Okay. Let's see, next on our agenda, item number 7. We have land use file number 2103, a minor subdivision for Taco Bell. And then item number 8 as well is land use file 2104, the conditional use permit, also for the use, restaurant of Taco Bell. Paul, thanks for joining us.
You bet. What we have before us is, as you mentioned, is a 2-lot minor subdivision of the old bowling alley site up on Mountain View Drive. And along with that is a conditional use permit application for a drive-through restaurant. I know that at least 2 of you were at the Planning Commission's meeting, and I would guess that Kayla, you've listened to the recording. And I also like to say that we have received some additional information in the form of a petition. And for your consideration or whatever, I might also say that the applicant is with us and the applicant's representatives are with us as well, in case you have any questions. If you have any questions of me, that's what I'm here for.
Well, I think I will want to walk through some of the conditions and maybe ask if you might highlight any that might have included in the staff report that did not make it to the Planning Commission final recommendation for the board. But before that, I just want to say that the information that you did share with us, I think they were statements that were, as far as I assessed, covered in the Planning Commission meeting, and so it was new documentation submitted, but it was not necessarily new information or changes to the application. And I just want to clarify that and make sure that the board also feels that way, or unless they have any other concerns.
I would agree with that. I would concur with your analysis.
And this is Commissioner Field. I'd also agree with that. Reading over that letter or petition or whatever the right word is, I think one of the substantive points that speaks to a specific approval criteria was the traffic study timing. And I know that was thoroughly discussed, and I believe is covered in some of the condition or one of the conditions, and then other points raised in that I believe sort of informally were discussed within the Planning Commission hearing.
Yep. Okay. Paul, do you have a kind of a summary for us that you'd like to present, or should we go through the recommended statement of motion from the Planning Commission?
Why don't we just jump into those, into the recommended conditions of approval? The Planning Commission was given 3 possible motions per file for a recommendation for denial, a recommendation for a recommended motion for approval with conditions, and then a recommended motion for tabling on all 3 files. They chose to recommend with conditions of approval, to which I believe they agreed with all of the conditions of approval that staff presented, and then they added 3 more. So if you want to go through those conditions of approval, and the conditions of approval are similar to both files that you're considering. The Planning Commission had a site plan review application that doesn't come to you, but they did approve that as well with the same conditions.
Okay, thank you. And Paul, there was a lot, listening to the deliberation of the Planning Commission, there was a lot of conversation about pedestrian and the sidewalk and a plan, you know, a bigger conceptual or comprehensive plan for that area, anticipating larger growth and more traffic. Was that specific to the site plan, or is that, and I don't think actually they didn't vote to include a requirement for a sidewalk. Was that specific to the site plan, or does that affect the conditional use permit?
That was a
file here?
specific comment by the engineer. The applicant has since agreed to supply this sidewalk. In as much as the conditions of approval include responding to the engineer's comments, the Planning Commission did decide to just leave that alone. And it'll get responded to as part of the applicant's responses to the engineer's comments.
Okay, and that's not specific to the site plan review only?
No,
I mean, I
it's
understand you're saying it will be incorporated, which I personally am happy to hear, because I do think that there really is an issue. And I think, you know, I think overall, it's worth reaching out to Safeway and Excel and other neighbors and Public Works to try to figure out a bigger plan for that block or that area. Summit Stage, maybe, you know, with the bus stop across the way, if we had a bit better shelter and some pathways and clear kind of vehicular and pedestrian expectations of movement in that area. I think we're going to need it.
I don't disagree with you that, Chairman Mudge. But the problem that we have is that we really can only address the impacts that the developer himself is going to have on this particular.
Yep.
And they have responded, and I agree. Attention needs to be paid in that particular area, but I don't think we can ask the developer to do that.
Well, it sounds like they are, as it applies to them, but overall, no, as the bigger picture, I was not meaning to imply. And I'm trying to reshare my screen. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. Can you see that?
Yeah, sure, that's up.
We'll pull it back up. Okay. At any rate, let's go through the statement of motion here, and if you could highlight for us, I suppose we can read, and then would you let us know what are the last three, the 3 additional?
Yeah, what would you like me to do? We can go through each motion, each recommended condition, if you like, or I could discuss the final 3, number 10, 11, and 12.
Why don't we read the whole suggested motion? And
I can read the whole motion to the record if you like, and then we can discuss it.
That would be great. Thanks, Paul.
I move the Board of County Commissioners approve file 21-03, a minor subdivision of 1717 Poplar, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, address and resolve the comments, shortcomings, and inconsistencies identified by the county contract engineer, subject to review and approval by the engineer. A, In the letter dated May 26th, 2021 from SEH and the response letter dated June 11th, 2021 from Harris, Kocher, and Smith. B, in the applicant's project narrative from Harris, Kocher, and Smith dated April 1st, 2021. C, on the applicant's proposed subdivision plat. D, in the applicant's drainage compliance letter by Harris, Kocher, and Smith dated March 29th. E, on the 12-sheet site plan titled 1717 Poplar. Number 2, submit cost estimates for all of the associated public improvements subject to review and approval by the county contract engineer. Number 3, submit a completed subdivision improvements agreement subject to review and approval by the Lake County Land Use Council and the county attorney. Number 4, include on the plat a certificate indicating where, which reception number, the subdivision improvements agreement is recorded. Number 5, respond to comply with the requirements of Excel. Number 6, comply with section 6.15.3 lighting standards, including that direct lighting as well as backscatter shall comply with dark sky principles to the extent possible, including the lighting on the building. Reduce the number of light poles and make them shorter. Number 7, proposed signage plan is subject to review and approval by the Lake County Board of Adjustment. Number 8, the title of the plat should better relate to the local geography rather than the state of Colorado. Number 9, all statements made in the application and by the applicant in hearing shall be considered as conditions of approval unless modified by other conditions of approval. Number 10, payment of all county contract review agencies. Number 11, review agencies. Number 11, submittal of civic construction documents. And number 12, all conditions are met with no substantive changes to the applications in which all approval criteria remain the same. And finding that 1, as proposed, the proposed conditional use, the proposed plat. Actually, the proposed plat is consistent with the goals. The proposed subdivision is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies contained in the Lake County Comprehensive Plan. 2, that as proposed, the proposed subdivision conforms with the requirements and provisions of this code. Number 3, that adequate public safety, transportation, and utility facilities will be available to serve the subject property while maintaining sufficient levels of service for the existing development. Number 4, I guess, that the proposed conditional uses of the proposed subdivision is not likely to be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare of the county residents to cause hardship for neighboring persons. Number 5, that as proposed, the proposed subdivision is consistent with and in harmony with the neighboring land uses and future intended land uses in the area. Number 6, that as proposed, the proposed subdivision will not likely result in overly intensive use of the land relative to the surrounding land. And then number 7, as proposed, the proposed subdivision does not result in traffic congestion or hazards to vehicular or pedestrian traffic. Number 8, that as proposed, the proposed subdivision will not unnecessarily scar the land on which such use would be located. And number 8, that the proposed as proposed, the proposed site of the subdivision is and will be free from natural or man-made hazards, or that the hazards can and will be adequately mitigated. That is the motion for the subdivision.
Thanks, Paul. And I should also mention, I think that a little bit more background on, were it not for the drive-through aspect of the restaurant, is a use by right as zoned in the commercial business zone. Is that correct, Paul?
That is correct. It's the subdivision of the land, and the fact that it's a drive-through is what the applicant is choosing to do these things. The applicant is choosing that the restaurant be drive-through. The restaurant is a use by right. It would require a site plan review. And doesn't necessarily require that it be subdivided. This is a choice by the applicant.
Yep. I just, with a lot of anticipated contention, I just want to be sure we kind of throw out as much information on the process that has taken place, as well as maybe to mention, there was a lot of discussion about the visual impacts and the design of the building being in harmony with surrounding uses, which was mentioned and very, was mentioned as being very thoughtful by the applicant. And that recording is available for viewing on the website, on the county's website as well. Any commissioners, anything else that you'd like to add?
I don't think so, Sarah. I just want to make sure that I put it on the record that while I was not able to attend the public hearing, I did listen to the recording of the public hearing. Just putting that out there so that everyone's aware that I did do my due diligence with this application.
Thank you. And Paul, the number 10, payment of all county contract review agencies. Is this, do you mean just payment to?
Payment to
you?
us, because we pay the bill and the applicant has agreed to reimburse the county for what we pay. And there's the current bill is around $5,000 for the county contract engineer. It's liable to increase because the changes that are going to be made to the site plans as well as the plat are going to require re-review. And then the Land Use Council, Aaron Smith, is going to need to be reviewing the subdivision improvements agreement.
Okay.
Good. Commissioner Mudge, can I make a quick comment on this? I wanted to comment while we're on that item or condition number 7, and just note, I wanted to agree, and thank the applicants for doing a very thoughtful job of their building design, specifically in regards to making it harmonious with the area and very specifically on their signage and lighting. And while I recognize that, as I stated in 7, this does go to the County Board of Adjustment, I did want to strongly urge the applicants as they finalize their signage. There is on their site plan a pylon and a large sign, and just wanted to really urge them to think through what's appropriate for the pylon height, the size of the sign, and illumination. Just thinking through how that's going to look, both relative to the height of other buildings and signs, in the county and neighboring area. And also wanted to specifically mention one thing: the illumination of the sign, the north and west will face the highway 24, but the other side is going to shine right over a neighborhood back there, you know, sort of down Mount Traver and neighboring streets. So again, just really urge the applicants to carefully think through as they finalize their signage, and particularly with that tall pylon, again, on the height, size, and illumination of that. Thank you.
I really appreciate that comment, Commissioner Fiedler, and I would urge the same. I think that the view, it's going to be very apparent, that location use from Highway 24 over there, and there's going to be a lot of signage too, showing the directional and the through the lot, and it's going to be a lot more illumination than is there now. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I might try to explain condition number 12, which is, I think the applicant or the Planning Commission was desirous of having this project move forward with conditional review, recognizing that there is a possibility that that in meeting the conditions of approval, that the applications themselves could change, in which and all of the approval criteria should remain the same. If it doesn't, then I think the Planning Commission would like to see it come back to them. This was a condition that I think that the Planning Commission was attempting to make sure that the project didn't have any substantial changes as a result of complying with the conditions of approval.
Very good. Well, do I have a motion in favor of the statements read into the record by Paul?
Sorry, Sarah, you're looking for just a motion approving the acceptance of file 2103 with the stated conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I move that we approve file 2103, a minor subdivision, with all the recommended conditions forwarded to us from the Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
None from me, thank you.
None for me.
I don't have anything either. All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, now file 2104.
I can
Stop.
read this into the record if you like, for the other commissioners to so move.
That would be great, Paul. Thank you. I'll pull it up. I'll work on pulling it up.
All right, I'll start reading. I move the Board of County Commissioners approve file number 21-04, a conditional use permit for Taco Bell drive-through restaurant at 1717 Poplar Street, subject to the following conditions. Number one, address and resolve the comments, shortcomings, and inconsistencies identified by the county contract engineer, subject to review and approval by the engineer. A, in the letter dated May 26, 2021 from SEH and the response letter from Harris, Kocher, and Smith dated June 11th, 2021. B, in the applicant's project narrative from Harris, Kocher, and Smith dated April 1st, 2021. C, on the applicant's proposed subdivision plat. D, in the applicant's drainage compliance letter by Harris, Kocher, and Smith dated March 29th, 2021. And then E, on the 12-sheet site plan titled 1717 Poplar Street. Number 2, submit cost estimates for all of the associated public improvements subject to review and approval by the county contract engineer. Number 3, submit a completed subdivision improvements agreement subject to review and approval by the Lake County Land Use Council and the county attorney. Number 4, include on the plat a certificate indicating where the reception number, the subdivision improvements agreement is recorded. Number 5, respond to and comply with the requirements from Excel. Number 6, comply with section 6.15.3 lighting standards, including that direct lighting as well as backscatter shall comply with dark sky principles to the extent possible, including the lighting on the building. Reduce the number of light poles and make them shorter. Number 7, the proposed signage plan is subject to review and approval by the Lake County Board of Adjustment. Number 8, the title of the plat should better relate to the local geography rather than the state of Colorado. Number 9, all statements made in the application and by the applicant in hearing shall be considered as conditions of approval unless modified by other conditions of approval. Number 10, payment of all county contract review agencies. Number 11, submittal of civic construction documents. Number 12, all conditions met with no substantive changes to the applications in which all approval criteria remain the same. And finding that, number 1, that as proposed, the proposed conditional use is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies contained in the Lake County Comprehensive Plan. Number 2, that as proposed, the proposed conditional use conforms to the requirements and provisions of this code. Number 3, that adequate public safety, transportation, and utility facilities will be available to serve the subject property while maintaining sufficient levels of service for existing development. Number 4, that the proposed conditional use is not likely to be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare of county residents or to cause hardship for neighboring persons. Number 5, that as proposed, the proposed conditional use is consistent with and in harmony with neighboring land uses and future intended land uses in the area. Number 6, that as proposed, the proposed conditional use will not likely result in overly intensive use of the land relative to the surrounding area. Number 7, that as proposed, the proposed conditional use does not result in traffic congestion or hazards to vehicular or pedestrian traffic. Number 8, that that as proposed, the proposed conditional use will not unnecessarily scar the land in which the use would be located. And then number 9, that as proposed, the proposed site of the conditional use is and will be free from natural or man-made hazards, or that such hazards can and will be adequately mitigated.
I don't think I have any other questions or specific concerns for staff. Commissioners, do you have anything for them?
No, I don't at this time.
I just had one clarifying question, and sorry for not doing my own homework here. Is there anything different on this set of conditions that we should pay attention to versus?
Both sets of conditions are exactly the same.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check. Thank you. And no further.
And there were additions from the Planning Commission and additional suggestions from staff in the public hearing. Any conditions that you said that were not included? That did not
just the final 3 that the Planning Commission added.
Okay. And again, this is not the file to encourage or add any kind of pedestrian design?
Well, in response to the comments by the county engineer, pedestrian traffic should be better addressed, at least along Mountain View Drive.
So
Yeah, I think oh, go ahead, Commissioner Marcella.
no, that's okay. So that will need to be addressed by the applicant to the county engineer then, Paul?
And the county engineer, yes, will actually accept it or not.
Okay.
And I think I've got to say, there was a lot of the conversation about right of way on the road, but I actually think that the problem might lie on the site and not having some navigation across or on the site, not just in that right of way. So I'm eager to see what develops. with
Well,
those plans.
the right of way for Mountain View Drive isn't quite wide enough. But since the properties on the other side of the street have nothing to do with the applicant's proposal, the dedication of right of way is split between the two sides. The applicant will supply 5 feet of that right of way, and which will bring it up to 45 feet wide, I think. And a local road should be 50 feet wide. So
And
what
then will
we're-
there be that pathway on that east side of the lot? On Poplar
I-
Way?
I think that's subject to county engineer review. We don't know what the
Okay.
name of that street is yet. That'll be an administrative procedure to fix that and perhaps renumber the sites along that short block long street.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Fiedler, do you want to take another stab at making a motion?
Yes.
I think, Jeff, all you'd really have to do is say so moved,
Sorry.
because I read the motion into the.
Oh, yes. Then so moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Wait, well, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I just want to clarify for listeners, moving to approve file 2104. All right, any further discussion, commissioners?
No, I don't think so from me.
Okay,
None for me. No, I think we covered everything in, essentially in consideration of 2103. So.
I just have one question for Paul. Paul, will all of these conditions just be followed up to staff, or at what point would they ever come back to the Planning Commission if there were significant issues with any of the conditions, such as like the pedestrian or traffic issues?
I think that if there is any disagreement between staff and the applicant regarding the conditions of approval, it will probably come back to the Planning Commission, but I don't anticipate that because an initial letter that I got from Rachel Patton, the engineer of record for Taco Bell, has indicated that most of the conditions are going to be complied with. Most of the comments from the county engineer are going to be adequately addressed.
great.
Thanks, Paul. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Hearing no further discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Appreciate you going through that, Paul.
Well, the applicants put in a fair amount of work themselves.
Much appreciated. Absolutely. I thought they were very responsive and helpful in explanation and going through some documentation at the with the Planning Commission and the board and the joint hearing. So yes, thank you very much. All right.
Chair, could I, we're 2 hours in, could I request a couple-minute break?
Yes, sir.
That would be
All right.
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, is 5 all right? Does that work or?
Perfect.
Can
Okay.
we just take a 5-minute break?
We'll be back around 3:07. Yep.
Man.
Oh geez, I'm sorry. I've been talking, muted. You gotta wave at me when I apologize. All right, we are back, 3:07. We left off finishing up item number 8 and item number 9. Now we'll move on to, which is our 2 separate items to consider regarding Panarch subdivision. The first is a fee waiver request for getting a question onto the ballot for those residents in this year's election. And the second is an acknowledgement and a confirmation by the board committing to a July 19th hearing. Panarch subdivision property owners are in pursuit of creating a special district so that they can better take care of the infrastructure out there in Panarch. This would only affect those property owners out at Panarch. And with that, I will open it up for any comments or clarification from my other commissioners before attending to item A.
I don't think I have anything right now.
I was just going to say for clarification, I believe it's a special metro district, because I think there's a raft of different kinds of special districts. So, which I think is, kind of similar to Sylvan Lakes or, and again, for background for people who haven't attended previous work sessions on this, its primary focus will be on raising fees within that homeowner, geographic area, with an initial focus on road maintenance. That was it.
Great. And the fee was $500. I think Patty shared that with us in our last work session last week. I'm comfortable doing that with as much as that district is struggling and also trying to implement projects. I don't know how my fellow commissioners are feeling about the request for fee waiver.
I don't seem to have significant concerns over that either, and really, excuse me, my sentiments seem to match that of yours, Sarah, that I would be fine with that at this point.
Yeah, I'll say I'm okay with that. I think it's a relatively small amount, and I do think there's some broader public benefit of this, increased organization there in terms of, more reliable emergency access or egress. I do think down the road we should take another look at, getting a clearer policy of when we waive, building permit fees or event fees, for which kinds of entities do we waive or reduce fees. But I think there's going to be significant public benefit here beyond just, that area. So I'm comfortable with doing that in this case.
Yeah, this is Chris. I was just going to chime in and offer that this is a nonprofit organization that's making the request. It's not a developer or somebody like that. So.
Okay. I appreciate those comments. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to waive the fees associated with developing and getting a ballot measure on the 2021, on the ballot for 2021 election.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you. Thanks to the Twin Lakes folks for, or Panarch for, for taking the time and sharing their information and plans with us. We do appreciate it.
All right, if there's no further discussion, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hey, Commissioner Mudge, I wonder if it's worth also just kind of clarifying and delineating between the Twin Lakes Village request for the septic and water issues, that's a separate issue from the Panarch potential metro district, so that not to get those convoluted, and just just for anyone on the call, that's this fee waiver and request for a ballot question is separate from the ask of the Twin Lakes Village.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. All right, and then so confirming our legal has been working with the Panarch residents legal representation, working through learning and understanding what the process is to get this language on the ballot for those property owners. And part of that process is having a hearing. And so we spoke together at our last work session just last week and confirmed, or would like to confirm, the agreed upon available date of July 19th to host that hearing. I don't think we need to make any other formal motion, just to acknowledge that that will be posted. Yeah, it should be posted today, I believe, to stay on the timeline.
Commissioner Mudge, I just wanted to chime in real quick too. They had sent a question asking if that hearing will be held via Zoom, and if so, if it would be the same link that has been used so far for BOCC public meetings.
Yeah, if it's not hybrid, there'll definitely be a virtual component for participation, and it would be the same for
Okay.
our regular meetings and our work sessions. Those are all the same virtual info.
Okay, they're just trying to finalize the notice that will need to go out to the property owners, and needed to include that type of information as to accessing the hearing. So I'll follow up with them after this meeting to let them know.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Chris, that we need to discuss or acknowledge right now?
We're finalizing a couple of tweaks to the plan that was submitted, one of which Michael Irwin might be pleased to hear, is to clarify that the improvements or the obligations under the plan will be solely within the Panarch's district, and that there's not going to be any obligation for the county to inspect or confirm that they're complying with those obligations, even though, of course, the county could, but there's not going to be any obligation to help them with maintaining the roads or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you for the update.
Sure.
All right. Moving on then to item number 10, we have a revision of the Lake County Cora policy and procedure for consideration. Let me see if I can pull that up as well. While I'm doing that, Chris or Commissioner Marcella, do you want to give us a little bit of a summary of how we've made improvements and or changes to this process?
Sure. Commissioner Marcel, I'll jump in if you like. Essentially, the current resolution covering core responses was adopted in 2001. At that point in time, 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of, I think, anticipation as to, for example, electronic responses or requests and that type of thing. The proposed revised policy essentially kind of brings things forward, also provides more detail as to how the requests will be handled, just because it's very easy to get tripped up in responding to Cora requests, as well as to be inconsistent in how they are responded to. So the policy strives to set up somewhat of a roadmap, if you will, for folks. It provides guidance as to, how custodians of records will respond to Cora requests, and when the clerk and recorder gets them, how they're processed and such. Fortunately, Ms. Berger and I, we've got an arrangement now where she simply forwards the request that she receives in her office to me for review and follow up, and then I follow up with the custodians to help walk them through our current process. I'm hopeful that with this new policy and the detail it provides, that will help kind of limit the amount of time that it takes to respond to them. The other thing too is that the form that's currently used is really bare bones, and sometimes it's hard to interpret what information they're requesting. It also doesn't allow for them to provide email addresses and such. Oops, sorry, Siri thinks I'm talking to her. It doesn't provide a lot of guidance for the person making the request in terms of, the types of information they can get and that type of thing. So I'm just hoping it'll just make things a lot more streamlined and easier to administer than they are under the current policy.
Yeah, I agree with all of those points that Chris brought forth. And with the previous policy and procedure being more than 20 years old, it seemed rather outdated. And so I think that adding this background information and transparency to the process and procedure that we put in place internally will assist us in maintaining transparency around how public records are provided and what public records are provided, and which department you can go to for public records. So for instance, you can request criminal justice records, but you don't necessarily make those requests through us. You make them through the sheriff's office and they go through a separate process. So so this is just maintaining that transparency of when we give you the records that you're requesting, this is what you're getting in accordance to our policy and procedure.
And it also, as you're scrolling through, it reminded me that it also points out that there can be fees for the request, especially if it's something that's voluminous, multiple years have to be researched or something to that effect, because in all honesty, county staff and all, they're spending a lot of time on core requests. And so it's something that's a cost that the statute doesn't require the county to fully absorb. So this is to cover those instances where the requests made are somewhat burdensome on staff, so that the county can, recover some of those costs.
And the fees are in line with state statute and also with consistent with what other counties and municipalities utilize for public records requests.
And in fact, in my research and looking at what some other counties are doing, they're a lot less than some of the other counties are charging, but maybe that's a reflection of their enhanced costs where they are versus ours, perhaps.
Yeah, along with the core request, I think that just goes with good housekeeping and standard operating procedures that have been discussed over the last few years of record retention and, electronic access. So we'll hope to improve all of those items. But thank you for working on this revision. I do think it's really helpful to have some of those expectations and that guidance included in the request sheet or with the request sheet.
Yeah, and I think, Sarah, then it also gives us an opportunity to continue to utilize the public-facing electronic platforms that we have currently, like our website, where a lot of that information can be found easily and is easily accessible through the website, so that it's not continuing to bog down staff time. So as we continue to put more and more of our information to make it readily available online, then that also complements this policy very nicely.
Commissioner Marcella, to that end, if there's a list of the types of information that can be found on the website, I would love to go on and at the second page of the form has instructions. And I would love to be able to put some information in the instructions that tells folks that they can find certain information on the website, because that might actually cut down on the number of requests that we receive. So if there's any way, I could get a list of what information is there kind of consolidated. So we don't end up, I'd love to keep this 2 pages. So you have like the front page and it can be copied front to back. So when folks come into the clerk and recorder's office and request, make a core request, you can just hand them one sheet of paper versus, multiple sheets. So I can modify the form to accommodate that if I could just get a list of what's there.
Yeah, I can absolutely get that together for you to include in your information packet.
Awesome. And then what I'll also do, Ms. Burr, just so you know, is I will, once this is adopted, I will create a separate form with the instructions so that the whole, 8 pages it currently is, doesn't you have to be given out, to make it easier for both your staff and other departments to use if requests are made.
Great.
Thank you.
I like that. Yeah, again, better access to iCounty and maybe some instructions on the website. Perhaps Patty can work with a meet to further outline that, as well as another access point to records. Great. All right. Well, Chris, I don't have any questions for you on the document you provided for consideration. And if there aren't any other ones from my fellow commissioners, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the revised core request guidelines.
So moved.
A second?
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
None for me?
No? Okay. All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Great, thanks so much.
Thank you. I will get a finalized version then of the form over. The one thing I didn't do, and I didn't expect that it was necessary, but if I need to, I can also provide an actual resolution for adoption of this. I don't, if you feel it's needed. I personally don't think it's needed, because it's an internal type of policy, and so it's just consistent with what the statute requires the county to do anyway.
It doesn't seem like we are.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Sorry.
Okay.
So I'll just circulate the final version of it once I get the information from Kayla or Commissioner Marcella to put in with the instructions and clean up the form. Then I'll just circulate that to y'all and to Ms. Berger, so her staff will have it as well.
All right. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We are at number 11. Because of the closure of the aquatic center, there is significant savings in operational expenditures, and we have a budget presented to us by the recreation director, and for some reallocation of those funds. Let's see, I pulled up what we are looking at here. So we have some estimated savings of around 159,000. And then most of that reallocation is towards the recreation master planning, the RFP, which is out. We will have to still do some pay for some utilities and work out, work out of that space in agreements and any other issues with the school district, which we've continued to work on. And then we have some requests for some larger winter recreation items. And unless the board has any questions or concerns about this, I think Amber has brought this to each of us. Do you all have anything that occurred to you? And she is out for the day, so not here, but happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
I'd like to make a quick comment to reiterate the point you made that, the bulk of this reallocation is going to the master plan to figure out, among other questions, but especially to figure out what the plan is for the pool going forward. So it's not just being stolen away and put into some slush fund for other purposes. We're trying to address that. And then also just note that, coming out of the one-on-one discussion with Amber, that a lot of the costs are either things like utilities you mentioned that have to be done, or also, it's trying to make sure we keep taking care of things we have, and keep them in good working order and not get behind on maintenance. It's not being slush funded away to start something new and different.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can see this facilities list here of kind of ongoing physical improvements or needs at each of these facilities as well that Amber and Public Works have been working together to try to identify and address.
Commissioner Mudge, is there any kind of prioritization to the facilities listed in the bottom?
I don't think so.
Or I mean, is it just a list of all of the facilities, but they're not prioritized in any kind of particular order on the bottom, right?
I don't think they are in any particular order. We've got, let's see, we've got like failing and some of the baseball field dugouts. Geez, I couldn't think of the word. Are caving in. We've got some, restroom facilities at Kendrick Park. That has been an ongoing conversation with the golf course, and also the imposed impacts from the camping, the dispersed camping out there is kind of this ongoing issue that we really saw exacerbated last year. So just a lot of things that are either dire because they've all of a sudden collapsed, or ongoing, and we can definitely anticipate them needing that attention before they become dire.
Could I potentially just, if we had to allocate the remaining funds, I would probably put highly on my list the Dutch Henry Vault toilet, because I think that space is utilized a lot. There's so many people there in the winter, and in the summer it's kind of a nice commonplace with the mineral belt. And in Kendrick Park, and I don't know if it would cost us anything to have old equipment removed from Kendrick Park, or if that's something that we could potentially think of doing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I know Amber's definitely been looking at into that, and I do think the vault toilets, that situation below the dam at Kendrick Park and Dutch Henry, and probably doing a few different locations would be a efficient use of contracting with somebody to get out here and dig those. So yeah, I can probably also think of another place or two that might be beneficial for us to add, impacts on the east side or whatnot as well. But those plans and all of that will likely come to the board as they get developed, and we would consider investing in that. So we will keep you posted, and I will push that suggestion along on Dutch Henry as well, Commissioner Marcella.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I guess I just request approval for the proposed reallocation of the recreation budget.
Do you want a motion for that, or?
Yes, please. Yeah, that would be great.
So moved.
All right, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you so much. And 12, thanks for hanging in there with us, Christy. We have Housing Coalition update on roles and responsibilities. Take it away, Christy.
Hey everybody, good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a couple of months. So when we presented to you with the policy advisory team, one thing that I think Planning Commission and as well as commissioners was hoping for was just a little bit of clarity on what roles and what things each housing group was working on. So I asked the coalition and the housing authority and the policy advisory team to collaborate with me, and got the document that I sent out to you guys. Would you like me to share it on the screen?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
1 second. Got the wrong one pulled up. Okay, so this is a 2-page document. The first page is a Venn diagram for those who are visually stimulated. So the Housing Coalition is an LC-BAG facilitated group of volunteers. Their primary objectives are advocacy, bringing capacity, and technical assistance. The policy advisory team is also LC-BAG facilitated, but has subject matter expert supports through Willa and Jonathan. You guys may remember them from the Housing Action Plan. They're working on changes to building, particularly land use code that can support more development, more economic development throughout the county and the city. They also have the ability to provide feedback and support on housing development process. And then the Housing Authority is not LC-BAG facilitated. We do give them a little bit of support when they need research and things along those lines. And obviously we communicate a lot with them, but they have their own governing board. Their main focus right now is keeping Mount Massive Manor running. They're hoping to expand their scope, and they're going through the process of learning about what that would look like so that they could take on additional developments or other projects within the housing realm. It's a pretty dynamic tool having a housing authority. And then the one thing that kind of ties everything together is these 3 roles give the community an opportunity to have their voice heard in an impactful and meaningful way. Any questions on this first one? Great.
No, not for me.
Okay, and then the second page has a lot more verbiage than the first one. It has all 3 of their mission statements, talks a little bit about what each group is doing, how much capacity they currently have. This is something that can change, but this is currently the amount of people you guys can call on in each different group. Talks about how they're making their decisions, how people get appointed. So obviously the Housing Authority is the most strict, right? It requires an appointment from the mayor with feedback from city council. The policy advisory team, since that is a stipend position, we do pay people to be involved in that work. They do require an application. And then the Housing Coalition is open to anybody and everybody who wants to be involved. Talks about their structure, and I already covered a little bit about LC-BAG facilitation, and then how this work is being done financially. And the reason I thought that this was important to bring to you today, I know this has been a really long day for you guys, so I'm trying to keep it as brief as possible. I think it's important for you guys to understand this going into that June 30th meeting that you requested to start doing some strategy with City Council and Housing Authority, so that it was as clear to you as it can be what each group can do, is currently working on, and how they can help you advance initiatives. I sent a message to you guys the other day about the June 30th meeting. We are planning on having that in person. We'll have food. I failed to mention, if you need childcare, we can provide childcare. I would just need to know that from you here in the next couple days so we can get that arranged. And then we're going it's going to be me presenting to you some a little clearer recommendations than what we have been bringing to you in the past. It's going to be pretty straightforward, and I'm hoping to send a packet to you on Wednesday with the agenda and any prep materials that you might need to review before that meeting. Questions about what I presented today or what to expect from the 30th?
Christy, I do have a question on the 30th. Will we have you invited, been able to get commitment from any of the current Housing Authority board members and staff there? I think there's only one staff member, correct?
So I assigned it to Augustina today to follow up with them. We're really hoping for 100% participation from you all, City Council and Housing Authority. We're trying to make it as appeasing as possible with food and all that.
Well, and I wonder too, just to observe and or kind of be poised for, you know, as a resource that I would anticipate reaching out to the, is it the Summit Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority? Is it Summit and Eagle or just in Summit?
It's Summit County Combined Housing Authority. So each municipality is involved in that effort. And they have given us a lot of information. They won't be joining us, but Becky Gray from Chaffee County, who is the housing director down there, in a very similar position. They just created their housing authority. She's going to be joining us, which I'm really super grateful for. I asked her for just some feedback and she said, hey, I'll come. So I think that's going to be a really good resource for you guys.
And that sounds great. Should we reach out to the Summit Combined Housing Authority? I'm sorry, I think I just botched the name again, even though you just
No, it's okay. They just had a turnover in administration. Their executive director just turned over. I think the new guy started today. So what would you like to get from them? Because I might have already collected it.
I really think it's just an opportunity to build a relationship and meet them, because they're going to be, I imagine they might be really, you know, Summit County's reached out to us and trying to figure out how to partner, and I think just building that so we can have future conversations.
I'd be happy to send out an introductory email to their new director and include the three of you if you guys would find that helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. I think that'd be great too.
Can I ask a question? I don't mean to get ahead of topics that we'll dive into more on the 30th, I think it was. So what options are sort of going to be on the table at that meeting? Like looking at this chart and recalling previous discussions, I mean, is the current housing authority in our county, I mean, is it, so it says considering expanding the role, you know, so is one option that we expand what we have, and a second option is we sort of create a new sort of like, you know, larger housing authority to focus on the housing action plan elements and leave, you know, keep the current housing authority focused just on running, I don't mean just, but like, you know, focused exclusively on managing Mount Massive Manor. So sorry, that's a very jumbled question. I guess I'm curious is.
I think I got you.
Yeah, I mean, could we end up with two different authorities, one with the narrow mandate of managing Mount Massive and one with the much broader mandate of, you know, implementing some of the pretty ambitious housing action plan recommendations?
Sure. So The answer is that there are 4 new board members on that Housing Authority board. One existing, one who's been on there for 20 years. All of them are interested in expanding. They're just considering what direction they want to expand first. It would not be recommended to pursue another housing authority because it's pretty laborious to set that up. And we're lucky to have a group who is willing to do it. We just need to get them the support to get them across that finish line. They're incredibly lucky to have Jennifer Kermode, who is the director of Gunnison Valley Regional Housing Authority, former director of Summit County Combined Housing Authority, presenting to them next month to start discussing their options and the strategy that they want to put into place.
Wait just a second, babe.
Does that answer your question, Jeff?
Yeah, that was perfect.
And I would be happy to introduce you guys to Jennifer as well. She's super helpful and willing to lend her expertise to us pretty much every time we ask. So we're very grateful to have her support in these efforts.
That sounds great, Christy. Are you, sorry if I missed this, are you attending the current housing authority meetings just to observe? And when are those regularly scheduled?
They're the first Wednesday of every month.
Oh, okay.
And I believe Augustina, Augustina is the one who is attending those. I'm a little stretched thin at the moment. But Augustina could certainly give you an update of how those have been going. And I could ask her to start inviting you if you would like.
Yeah, that'd be great just to even have on the radar. Are those in the daytime typically?
They're in the evening. I'm trying to find the time, but I'm having a little trouble with my calendar. I'm almost there.
No problem. All right.
They are from 6 to 7:30 in the evening.
All right.
And then just to touch on something, I think Jeff started with his question, just to give you a little preview of what we expect to be presenting to you on the 30th. We're going to give you a recommendation on which funding to pursue first and how to use that money first, how we think that would be most impactful. We're going to give you an option on how to administer deed restriction in the meantime until the housing authority is ready to take that on. And then we're going to be discussing short-term rental excise tax. The city lawyer has some ideas, and I'm meeting with them, the city. They have a special meeting tomorrow. So I'm meeting with them to hear a little bit more about that. And then I actually haven't heard, have you guys heard if you got an answer yet to if we could impose that within unincorporated Lake County? I'm still hitting a roadblock on finding out if that's an option for us or not.
Sorry, Christy, impose the
short-term rental excise tax. Yeah.
I have not done any digging on that.
This is Chris. I've been digging, and I have yet, unfortunately, to find another county in Colorado that's done an excise tax for this. There are cities that have done municipalities, and I've reached out to them to see if I can get some more information regarding how they approached it and set it up and such, but I haven't been able to find a format for the county to adopt that. But Christy, I am still working on it.
Great, Chris. And I have a few resources like at the state that I have talked to, if you want me to send you them. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's like there's no hard from what I've been able to research. There's no hard rule that says we can't do it. From what I see, it's just no one has done it before. And so there's not an example of it in a county.
Yeah, and the challenge is not just that there's nothing saying you can't do it, but from my perspective, more importantly, nothing saying you can kind of thing. And so that's what I'm trying to find.
Right.
So
that,
yeah,
that was calculated. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just saying that, Chrissy, I'd appreciate if you could email me the contact information for your folks at the state so I can chat that through with them.
Certainly will.
I was going to say that, did the group calculate that revenue potential? What was that?
Yeah.
Was that like
Yes,
20?
We did.
And that was
I feel like it was like 120.
Annual, and was that with, and so I guess you'd have to break that out if municipalities are able to do that versus counties, and then what that actual revenue generation would be with the,
Yeah, it was certainly more from the city than the county. I think it was about 80,000 from the city and 40,000 from the county. And this is just off the top of my head. I can't find the spreadsheet right this minute.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's better than no money for housing. I think the other question that Jeff had asked, which I'm still researching, is what's the administrative cost of something along those lines? Because we certainly don't want to pursue something that's going to be a wash, or rather a cost that would be even worse. So still looking into that. And I'm working with the city of Mount Crested Butte because they are the ones who have most recently implemented that program, and I think they could give us some insight on that. Any other questions?
Not for me.
Oops,
Well, thank you.
I don't have anything either. Thank you for providing us with all the information, Christy, and the breakdown of those roles and responsibilities. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just add quickly, I mean, I think, to the extent we have time on the upcoming meeting, I think we're digging in on, some of the potential funding or new rules that might be available from some of the Colorado state legislature stuff that happened. I know there's at least two bills affecting that. And I know you're following that, Christy, as well as sort of ongoing, more detailed guidance on ARP funds that are coming to localities in the state. So just, be good to, keep factoring in those new rules and funding sources as we figure out how to do what first and how to fund it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. That's the other thing that we have a big agenda on June 30th. I just got off a webinar with Housing Colorado to learn a little bit more about those funds. It seems like they're going to be prioritized by what policies have been already put into place. And I'm going to be finding that list of policies so you guys can say like which ones might fit that we could get put into place. The good/bad news is they're not going to be distributing those and those funds, well, not the American Rescue Funds, but the House bill funds until legislative session 2022. So we have a little bit of time to get our ducks in a row as far as putting into place any policies that might qualify us for that money, which is good, because if we had found that out this month and they were giving us the money next month, we would not have time to do that. So just be prepared to hear that information from me as well on the 30th. Okay, it's been a long day. You guys have been at it for like 3 hours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We will see you the 30th. I will see you the 30th, if not before then, but that sounds great. Appreciate that. And yeah, if you'd introduce us to the various folks that we mentioned, that'd be fantastic.
Will do. Take care,
Thanks.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, and we're getting to the last item on the new business, and then we have our housekeeping with bills, payroll, and minutes. So last up is consideration of contract with Lake County and East Tech for the DTR tower construction. Commissioner Marcella, I believe you added this. I see Chris popping up.
Yes.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Chris. You can start.
yeah, what I was going to do is just apologize. I sent out the contract to DT to East Tech's last week, and I haven't heard back from them on it. And unfortunately, it's substantially different than their sample kind of template thing that didn't have any details in it that they proposed. So I hazard to suggest that you approve it today, but I also don't want it I don't want to have to slow down the process. So I don't know if Commissioner Marcella has heard anything back from them. She was copied, I think, on the transmission of the revised contract. So I just don't, if it ends up being a problem, I hate the notion of approving it without any feedback yet.
Chris, this is Kayla. I have not had any contact back from anyone from East Tex at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I had tried to reach out this morning, didn't get a response yet, just because I saw it was on the agenda. And so, I mean, it was an RFP that had, a proposal they submitted that's been approved. So it's just a matter of getting the contract in place, and I'm confident I can work with them to get something in place. I just don't know if they're going to ask for any substantive changes to what I sent them.
Go ahead, Commissioner Marcella.
I was just going to say, I think that at this point we can probably just remove this and then contract it or approve the contract once we get to the point where we actually have the document.
Okay.
That would be my preference. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll put it back on the list to cycle back around.
Yeah, if for the next regular meeting, or if you end up scheduling a special meeting between now and the next regularly scheduled meeting, I'll be happy to let you know if it's ready for review then.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris, for doing that. I appreciate it.
Sure, my pleasure.
We'll table that. And I guess it just made me think, not related to this contract, but as a matter of process, Chris, on the 19th, that hearing for PanArc, does that need to be a standalone agenda item and hearing?
I kind of recommend it be, just in case there will be a number of people there, I think, specifically for that. And
Yeah.
so, but I would also say, if it ends up something's carried over, if it's added, I would request that the PanArc matter be handled first, just so with the number of people there. But there might be a number of folks attending that meeting, so it might take a while to get through some commentary and stuff.
Okay.
Should we schedule that like in the morning prior to our regular meeting on that day then?
It's a special meeting.
I don't think.
Or let me see here. July. Was it? No, for the 19th. Yes. So it's on. No, it's not a special meeting. It's on the agenda for the 19th. So that's why I was saying if it's going to be at the regular meeting, then I would just ask it be one of the first things on the agenda.
Yeah.
If you end up with a bunch of other stuff where we end up seeing that it's going to take a lot of time, maybe we will, you can consider doing a special meeting for that or something instead. The only problem is they have to send out those notices. So
well, I think we keep them on at 1, and we just navigate, what agenda items we may have between the 5th and the 19th, and go from there and add them after the meeting, like Chris is suggesting, or after the hearing, I'm sorry, for
Okay.
PanArc specifically, but I think that should be okay. Yeah, we should leave it at 1 o'clock for their
Okay.
postings and whatnot.
Okay.
Okay, and great. So we will table that contract consideration, and we'll move on to bills, reports, payroll, and minutes. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the Veteran Services Officer Report for May 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of bills and payroll pay period ending June 18th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then minutes, and these were all, this was a set tabled from the last meeting. Did you all have a chance to review that and or submit changes back or questions to Patty?
I did have an opportunity to review them and I did not have any questions. I felt good.
Same here.
Okay, any problems with the comments that I had given back to Patty?
No.
Okay.
I apologize. I did not see that comment. Missed that. I don't know if you can recall what it was or.
There were just a couple of corrections on names and titles. I can resend you those.
No, if it's sort of corrections like that, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Versus something more significant or substantive in terms of an actual vote or outcome or.
No, I don't think there were any comments on motions made.
Yeah.
It was a while though, so, but I'll resend that. What do y'all want to do about approval for the set?
I'm comfortable approving all of them. I don't need to dig up something that was my fault for missing in the first place.
No worries. All right, then let's go down the list here and or there were also a handful without any sorry, I'm looking for my list. Any changes? I'm pulling it up. Okay. All right, so I will entertain a motion for approval with comments and revisions for the minutes of the regular meeting held April 5th, 2021, minutes of the special meeting held April 9th, 2021, minutes of special meeting held April 12th, 2021, the minutes of the special meeting held April 14th, 2021, the minutes of the regular meeting held May 3rd, 2021, the minutes of the meeting held May 10th, 2021. Minutes of the regular meeting held May 17th, 2021, minutes of the special meeting, and the minutes of the special meeting held May 24th, 2021.
So moved.
Oh, sorry. Second.
All right, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, I just have a comment that we will, our goal is to post our minutes from this point forward on the website as well. So those should be readily available to folks once they're accurately recorded. And with no further discussion, all of those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. And that concludes our agenda. Thanks for hanging in there on the long haul today. It feels good to get a lot of those things taken care of and checked off the list. And unless the commissioners have anything else, I might have frozen. I hope not. Oh, there's Jeff moving. Okay.
We can see you.
Okay. All right, at 4, is there anything else from the commissioners before I
No,
adjourn?
I don't think so. I just would like to request if we are able to get a response from East Tech's tower quickly, and if it warrants for us to post a special meeting, if we can do that, I would really appreciate it so that we can move forward with that project pretty quickly.
Okay. Yep, I think it sounds like Chris will be on that and just checking with her to kind of nudge her on that and see if they can respond to her. But happy to do that. Okay, if there's nothing else at 4:02, we will adjourn. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.